Is Santa real? I first saw Santa Claus when I was 32 on a Tuesday night in late December. And I'm telling you right now, I don't mean in a mall. I mean the kind of Santa you can't quite explain afterward without sounding unstable. And that's part of what makes it so hard to talk about. Because if you strip away the fear, what happened to me sounds like a string of coincidences, an overactive imagination, and a guy in a costume. But I know what I saw, and I know what he knew. I work nights at a building maintenance for the county. If a public building floods, freezes, gets broken into, or trips an alarm, dispatch calls me because I'm on the key list. Most nights are boring. A doctor, a door that won't latch, a water heater that needs resetting, a toilet someone clogged with paper towels like they were trying to hide a body. Late December is worse because everything is understaffed. Everyone's tired and the weather makes old buildings act up. At 1:12 a.m. on December 20th, dispatch called and said, "County Archives, motion alarm. Police check the exterior, no forced entry. You need to go reset it." The County Archives building used to be an old department store downtown. Now it's just rows of files and microfilm and locked rooms full of records nobody thinks about until they're desperate. The basement stores overflow boxes. It's the kind of place that feels cold even in the summer. I'd been there once before years ago. I remembered the smell dust, paper, old concrete. I drove down there with the heat setting on blast, thinking about nothing except sleep. When I parked in the alley behind the building, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. The message said, "Don't go downstairs." I stared at it longer than I should have. I'm not the type to spook easily. I grew up in a house where the furnace made noises that sounded like footsteps. I've been in empty buildings at night with the lights off. I've dealt with vagrants sleeping in stairwells. I've had people threaten me for telling them they can't use a public restroom after hours. But that text hit me wrong because it was specific. I texted back, "Who is this?" No response. I told myself it was a prank, someone messing with a county employee, maybe a wrong number. Still, I put my keys between my fingers as I walked up to the service door, which is something you do when your body doesn't fully agree with your brain. The service entrance opened into a quiet hallway. Motion lights clicked on with the delay that always makes you feel like you're walking into a mouth that's just waking up. I disarmed the alarm at the panel, checked the zone, basement storage, of course. Downstairs was through a door that required a keypad code. I had it because I'd been there before. The staircase smelled damp. My footsteps echoed. I remember thinking, if someone's down there, they'll hear me coming from a mile away. The basement door opened into a wide storage space, metal shelves, boxes, rolling carts, exposed pipes. The air was colder than upstairs, but that was normal for a basement. What wasn't normal was the Christmas stuff. A strand of green tinsel hung from a shelf like someone had tossed it there. A candy cane wrapper was on the floor. A little flick of glitter sparkled in my flashlight beam. It was unsettling in a stupid way, like finding party decorations in a morgue. "Hello?" I called. "Maintenance." No answer. I followed the row of shelves, scanning for anything obvious. An open window, a broken sensor, a loose panel. Then I saw the boot prints. They were in the dust on the concrete floor. Not deep, not dramatic, but clear enough to read. Someone had been down here recently. And the prints were big. Work boot big. I crouched and ran my finger near one print. The dust wasn't disturbed by old traffic. These were fresh. I stood up and felt that familiar maintenance worker dread, the knowledge that the problem isn't a broken sensor anymore. It's a person. And people at 1 a.m. in county basements are never there for a good reason. I backed toward the stairs, and that's when I noticed a paper taped to a shelf at eye level. Printer paper, neatly placed. At the top, it said, "Nice, naughty." It looked like someone's idea of a joke. Under the nice were random names, under naughty were fewer. My name was under naughty, my full name. And next to it, written in pen, like an afterthought, my stomach dropped because it said basement. My stomach dropped so fast it actually made me dizzy. I tore the paper down and looked around wildly like I expected camera crew to pop out. That's when I heard the sound that made everything in me go cold. A single soft bell jingle. Not a church bell, not a door chime, a sleigh bell. It came from behind the shelves. I swung my flashlight that way. It was nothing. But then I saw something red at the end of the aisle. Just a flash, red fabric disappearing past a rack. My brain said, a person in a Santa suit. My body said, run. I did what a lot of people do in that moment. I tried to be brave in the dumbest way. Hey, I shouted. I'm calling the police. The bell jingled again, closer. And a voice, low, calm, practiced, called back, please don't do that. The words themselves weren't terrifying, the tone was. Like someone speaking to a child they already have under control. I backed up fast, headed for the stairs. My heel hit something on the floor, and I almost went down. I looked. A small wooden toy soldier, cheap but old, lay in the dust. On the bottom, someone had carved letters with a knife. N-A-U, like the start of naughty, and then a number, 24. I didn't stay to decode it. I sprinted for the stairs. The basement door was heavier than I remembered. I shoved it and it swung slow, like it didn't want to let me leave. The whole time I felt no, no one knew that it was me down there. I wasn't alone. It felt like I just wasn't alone behind me. I got up into the main hallway, slammed the door, and didn't stop moving until I was out of the building and back into the alley. Snow was falling steadily now, quiet, soft, peaceful, the kind of snow that makes the world look innocent. I leaned against the brick wall, breathing hard, and tried to tell myself I just encountered some weirdo, a trespasser in a Santa suit, pulling a nasty prank. Then my phone buzzed again. Did you see him? My hands shook and as I typed. Who are you? The reply came back, Holly. I worked nights last year. Don't go home. I stared at the message. I texted, what do you mean don't go home? She responded almost immediately, like she'd been waiting for me to trigger the same trap. If he saw you, he'll follow you. He likes people who notice. My throat tightened. I typed, who is he? She wrote, Santa, or someone wants you to believe he is. Doesn't matter. And then stay somewhere with cameras, bright lights. People, don't be alone. I didn't want to believe her, but I also didn't want to test her. There was a 25-hour gas station 2 blocks away, fluorescent lights, cameras, a clerk behind bulletproof glass. I walked there fast, checking over my shoulder like an idiot, half expecting to see red fabric behind me. When I got inside, the warmth hit me hard. The clerk looked up from his phone and frowned. Are you all right, man? Yeah, I lied. Just a weird night. I bought coffee I didn't want and sat where I could see the doors. I told myself I'd sit there until morning. I told myself I was safe. That's when the bell jingled again. The automatic doors opened. A man walked in wearing a Santa suit. Not cheap, not the fuzzy pajama looking kind. A real tailored Santa suit. Heavy fabric, clean fur trim, boots that looked expensive, beard that looked real enough to pass at a glance. Snow clung to his shoulders. He didn't look around the store like a customer. He looked straight at me and smiled. The clerk gave an awkward laugh. Well, Santa's working late. Santa's eyes stayed on me. He said warmly, like he was reciting from something memorized, "Merry Christmas." He walked slowly to the coffee station and poured himself a cup like he belonged there. Then he carried it to my table and set it down in front of me. "I believe this is yours," he said. I didn't touch it. I couldn't make my mouth work. Santa sat in the chair across from me without asking up close. I noticed details that made my skin crawl. His gloves were clean, but the nails under them were dirt, like bruises. His beard smelled faintly of smoke, real smoke, not cologne. And his eyes were the wrong kind of friendly, like customer service, like a person trained to be pleasant while doing something cruel. "You ran," he said softly, almost amused. "That's okay, most do." I couldn't speak. Santa leaned in slightly. "You saw the list," he said. "That means you still care what it says." I swallowed. Across the store, the clerk was suddenly very still, listening without pretending not to. Santa tilted his head. "Do you know why you're on the naughty side of the list?" he asked me, gentle as a therapist. I shook my head. His smile widened. "Lying," he said. The word hit me like a punch. "I don't," I started. He raised a finger, quite polite. "You do," Santa said. "Everyone does. But some people lie the way others breathe." My coffee steamed between us. Santa's bell jingled faintly when he moved, like he was like he was stitched inside of him, like it was stitched inside of him. Then he glanced toward the clerk. "And you," Santa said pleasantly, "what would you like for Christmas?" The clerk blinked, caught off guard. "Me?" Santa nodded as if this was normal. The clerk swallowed. I don't know, money, I guess." Santa's smile faltered, just a flicker of disappointment. "Try again," he said. The clerk's face tightened, like he was embarrassed. He looked down, then whispered, "My daughter's sick. I'd like her to get better." Santa's expression softened like a mask changing. He said. "Now that's honest." He reached into his sack and pulled out a small wrapped box, neat and perfect, and set it on the counter. "For her," Santa said. The clerk stared at it like it was sacred. Then he looked at me, confused, as if asking whether this was real. I shook my head hard. Santa turned back to me. "You see," he said, "honesty earns gifts." The bell jingled again. "Christmas Eve," Santa added lightly. "Midnight, that's when I finish my work." Then he stood up, smooth and unhurried. Before he left, he bent slightly toward me and said in a voice so quiet I almost thought I imagined it, "Don't go home, not yet. I've already been there." The automatic door slid open. Santa walked out into the snow. And the instant the doors shut, every hair on my body lifted because the store felt colder without him, like he'd taken the warmth with him. The clerk finally spoke, voice shaking. "What was that?" My phone buzzed. It was Holly again. "Did he offer a gift?" I typed yes to the clerk. Her reply: "Don't open it. If you accept something from him, he owns the story afterward." I stared at that line. The clerk reached for the gift box with trembling hands. I stood up fast. "Don't." He flinched. "That's for my kid." "I know." I said, "I know, but please don't open it." The clerk hesitated. Then something happened that made the decision for us. The ribbon on the box loosened on its own, not dramatically, just a subtle slide, like the knot had been untied by invisible fingers. The clerk stumbled back, hands up. The clerk shifted once, as if whatever was inside settled, and then from inside the box came a faint scratching sound, like fingernails against cardboard. The clerk made a strangled sound. I grabbed the box with both hands. It was icy, so cold it stung my palms through my gloves. I ran outside to the dumpster behind the station and threw it in, slammed the lid shut. Inside, the scratching continued for 3 more seconds and stopped, like it was listening now. When I came back inside, the clerk was crying silently, wiping his face like he was ashamed. I just wanted my kid to be okay, he whispered. I know, I said, and I meant it. I did. My phone buzzed one last time. It was Holly. You stopped it. That matters. Stay in the light until morning. Christmas Eve is worse. I stared at the message until my vision blurred. Outside, snow kept falling, making everything look clean, like covering up, like pretending. When the sun finally rose, the world looked normal again. The gas station, the road, the Christmas decorations that suddenly felt like part of a joke I wasn't in on. But before I left, I checked my car. I don't know why, instinct maybe. On my windshield, tucked under the wiper, was a small card, not a fancy one, just plain paper, like it had been torn from a notepad. In neat handwriting, it read, One more chance, December 24, midnight, be honest. And in the corner, drawn simply with a tiny sleigh bell, no name, no threats, just that, like it was a reminder or a promise or a schedule. Because the terrifying part was Santa is real. The terrifying part was realizing someone out there, someone in red and white with a bell, had decided to make my life part of his Christmas tradition. And I didn't know what being honest would cost me yet. But I knew Christmas Eve was coming. And I knew he already knew where I lived.